What if time itself is accelerating? Not your perception of time, not the feeling that the years go faster as you get older. Time itself, the rate at which genuinely new things enter the world, accelerating toward a point where novelty becomes so compressed that everything changes at once. One man spent his life mapping that acceleration. He called the destination the Eschaton. And he believed he could calculate exactly when it would arrive. A visionary writer, philosopher, and ethnobotanist, spent decades exploring the outer edges of human consciousness and culture. He was not a scientist in the conventional sense. He was a thinker, deeply read in history, philosophy, alchemy, shamanism, and the natural world, who synthesized ideas across disciplines in ways that made academics uncomfortable and made everyone else lean forward. He believed that the most important questions about reality couldn't be answered by reducing them to their components. They had to be approached from multiple angles simultaneously, through science, through mythology, through direct experience, through the imagination. He was funny. He was provocative, and he saw something coming that he couldn't quite name but couldn't stop describing. McKenna's central idea was what he called novelty theory. The premise: the universe has a fundamental drive toward increasing complexity and novelty. From the Big Bang, to the first stars, to the first life, to language, to civilization, to the internet. Each stage doesn't just add to what came before, it transforms the entire context. Reality becomes something genuinely new. And the rate at which this happens, McKenna observed, keeps increasing. The gap between genuinely transformative events gets shorter and shorter. What once took millions of years now takes centuries. What took centuries now takes decades. What took decades now takes years. This wasn't just a philosophical observation. A mathematical map was created using the 64 hexagrams of the I Ching, what he called the Timewave. The mathematical foundations have been found to be problematic. Serious analysts have identified significant flaws in how McKenna derived the wave. But the underlying observation that complexity and novelty are genuinely accelerating is something many serious thinkers have independently noticed. Ray Kurzweil is one of the world's most respected technologists. His track record of technological prediction has been remarkably accurate over decades. His central thesis, the singularity, describes something strikingly similar to what McKenna called the eschaton. Kurzweil's argument is grounded in measurable data, the exponential growth curves of computing power, information density, biotechnology. He calls it the singularity, the point where the rate of change becomes effectively infinite from the perspective of pre-singularity humans. McKenna arrived at the same shape through the I Ching, through psychedelic experience, through philosophical synthesis. Two completely different methodologies, two completely different starting points, the same basic shape. That convergence is worth sitting with, not as proof that either man is right, but as a genuinely interesting signal that something real might be underneath both descriptions. And then there are the traditions that described exactly this kind of threshold, long before either McKenna or Kurzweil were born. The Hindu concept of the Kali Yuga describes a final age of accelerating chaos, compression, and transformation before a reset into a new cycle. The pace of change within the Kali Yuga is described as increasing dramatically as it approaches its end, more happening in a century than happened in a millennium before it. The Hopi describe a similar compression, events and signs accumulating faster and faster as the transition to the fifth world approaches. The Book of Daniel describes knowledge increasing and people running to and fro, a world of accelerating information and movement as the sealed book opens. None of these traditions had access to exponential growth curves or the I Ching. They arrived at the same description, accelerating novelty converging on a threshold. Through direct observation, inner revelation, and cosmological framework. McKenna would have said they were all picking up the signal, the attractor at the end of time, pulling consciousness toward it from across millennia. McKenna died in 2000. The specific date his Timewave pointed to has passed, without the literal singularity he described. The mathematical framework he used has serious problems. He was working with incomplete tools on an incomplete understanding. That question hasn't been answered by his death or the passing of his predicted date. But the question underneath the Timewave, is novelty genuinely accelerating? And does it point toward a threshold? To language, to civilization, to the internet? Each stage doesn't just add to what came before, it transforms the entire context. In fact, looking at the world in 2026, it's harder to dismiss than ever. The pace of genuine transformation in AI, in biology, in energy, in the nature of information itself, is unlike anything in recorded history. Whether or not McKenna's map was accurate, the territory it was trying to describe seems very real. This wasn't just a philosophical observation. A mathematical map was created using the 64 hexagrams of the I Ching. And the rate at which this happens, McKenna observed, keeps increasing. He wasn't claiming to be a prophet, he was claiming to be a navigator, using imperfect tools to point at something real on the horizon. The horizon is closer now than it was when he was alive. Terence McKenna spent his life trying to describe something that didn't have a name. Something he felt pulling at history from the future. something that made him say again and again that we are living through the most extraordinary moment in the history of the universe, and that most people have no idea. He may have been wrong about the math. He may have been wrong about the date. But the feeling he was describing, that we are approaching something unprecedented, that feeling is harder to dismiss with every passing year. In our next episode, we look at the man who may have found the mechanism, the biologist whose research was suppressed, whose ideas were called dangerous, and who may have discovered why the same insights keep appearing independently across cultures and centuries. This is The Truth is Stranger.